Week 9 of the 2025 NFL season is officially in the books, and this week was unbelievable. So in today's video, I want to go through every single game of week number 9 and give you guys my reaction and opinions of every game. Subscribe and like the video if you do going to enjoy. Let's hop into it. And we are going to begin with our Thursday night football game, the Baltimore Ravens defeating the Miami Dolphins 28-6. So of course, the big return of Lamar Jackson came this week, and it honestly could not have come at a better time. This was a Ravens team that heading into the week had a 2-5 record and felt like they were basically on the brink of being eliminated from the playoffs just at any point without Lamar Jackson. But now you bring in Lamar Jackson, and Lamar had a very good game. 18 of 23 for 204 passing yards and then 4 touchdowns. On top of that, they also got the ground game going, which of course makes a ton of sense. When you have a threat like a Lamar Jackson out there, it makes it a lot harder to stop both Jackson and Derrick Henry. And Henry had 19 carries for 119 yards, one of his better performances of the season. Miami was, well, Miami. They were just not the same Miami team we saw a few years ago. This Miami team, I mean, they just have no charisma. They have no game plan. They have bad quarterback play. They cannot run the football. They got bad line of scrimmages on both sides. It felt like last week versus the Falcons, we saw a Miami team that had a little bit of life and was still fighting and, pushing to try and win games. This week, it just felt like they gave up after like the first quarter. It felt like they came in this game knowing Lamar Jackson was going to beat them up and abuse them, and they just kind of took it. So rough game for Miami. They obviously fired their GM, which makes a ton of sense. Looks like McDaniel and Tua are probably going to be out the door any day now, especially Mike McDaniel. It's tough to see because I think he's a good offensive mind, but just not a good head coach. Good win for Baltimore. You're now 3-5, and you're now back into the conversation for the AFC North. Next up, let's talk about the San Francisco 49ers defeating the New York Giants 34-24. New York Giants came into this game, of course, without probably 2 of their better players, especially on the offensive end. No Malik Neighbors. I mean, obviously that completely diminishes your receiving core. And of course, without Cam Scatterbo, it's really hard to run the football. On the day, their leading rusher was their quarterback, Jackson Dart. And look, I thought Jackson Dart had a pretty good game all around. There were some mistakes. This team just could not really effectively move the ball consistently down the field. They also missed a field goal that felt like took away a lot of just any momentum they might have had. They were making some plays, and look, they kept up in this game. It wasn't like they got completely destroyed from top to bottom. This game was a double-digit loss, and yes, there was a late score to cut into it even more so. But for, I would say, at least over half of the game, this was a really close back-and-forth game where the Giants could get back into it at any points. But simply put, without much of the talent on the team not playing, it's just really hard. I think Jackson Dart's doing a whale of a job. I think he looks really good. This was just a tough ask for him, and it's going to be a tough ask the rest of the season. As for San Francisco, look, I think Mac Jones looks really good as a starting quarterback for this team, and Christian McCaffrey, I mean, he is getting a ton of usage this season. I don't know how he's making it, but today, 28 carries for 106 yards. He also was the leading receiver, 5 catches for 67 yards. It's kind of been like that for most of the season. It feels like this team goes as Christian McCaffrey goes. If McCaffrey has a good game, then San Francisco probably has a good game. If he has a bad game, well, San Francisco probably doesn't win that game. But give a lot of credit to Mac Jones. He was like, I think 14 of 14 at halftime. I would not be surprised if Mac Jones is a starting quarterback in the NFL next year. Don't be surprised one bit if that does happen. All in all, a good win. Not a great win because New York is just not a good football team, but a good quality win. Gets them back on track. They're 6-3 and their future is, in their own grasp, in their own hands. Next up, let's talk about the LA Chargers narrowly defeating the Tennessee Titans 27-20. I say narrowly because, well, this was a one-possession game for a lot of this game. Give credit to Tennessee. They didn't play well offensively, but they made a couple plays. Defensively made a lot of plays. I thought their special teams played pretty well. The offense just, they just don't have the guys. Let's just keep it a stack. This was always going to be a very tough game, and frankly, I'm a little disappointed with the Chargers not being able to blow them out. I felt like the Chargers really had a huge advantage here from a talent perspective, but they didn't really execute that much on the field. Now, you got to give a ton of credit to this Chargers defense. I mean, look, the Tennessee Titans had a total of 206 total yards, 118 passing yards. They only had 10 first downs on the day, 1 for 9 on third down, 0 for 1 on fourth down. They sacked him 4 times. I mean, it was just a complete mismatch. But then on the opposing side, this Chargers offense made some mistakes. They did not play well. And I mean, look, Joe Alt might be out for the season or might be gone for a very long time. And without him, this team's not going to go anywhere. I hate to say it. Without Rashawn Slater and what presumably we're going to look at with Joe Alt probably missing some time, this is just not a good offensive line. There is no team in the NFL that can survive 3, 4, 5 injuries on the offensive line. This Chargers offensive line that was projected expected to be very good coming into the season has not worked out. And it's not because the guys they brought in or the guys they had are not playing well. It's because they're all injured. So for Justin Herbert, he's having to do basically everything. He's having to be Superman. And Herbert's doing a good enough job. He did a good enough job in this game, but I mean, realistically speaking, this is going to be their kryptonite. They are going to have to work around a really subpar offensive line. And that's going to make life very difficult for their running game. It's going to make life difficult on Justin Herbert. That's just what their life is going to be the rest of the season, unless they make some magical trade that maybe gives them some help on the O-line. We'll see if that happens. This was a rough day. Herbert got sacked 6 times. He had an interception. I thought they did not play very well on the offensive end, even though they did score 27 points. This team's going to have to rely very, very heavily on their playmakers to score, and they have to take care of business. They cannot have turnovers, or else it's going to be a game like this, a really ugly game. Next up, the Minnesota Vikings defeat the Detroit Lions 27-24. Coming into this game, I did think the Lions were going to win this one, but if you watched my predictions video, I did make sure to say that you never know with these NFC North in-division matchups. In-division matchups sometimes bring out the best of an opposing team for a number of reasons. Number one, extra motivation, division matchups. You hate the team opposite of you. So there's that extra little oomph in these games. But it's also the fact that these teams have seen each other so many times. I mean, they see each other twice a year. They game plan for each other the entire offseason. Every single year that Kevin O'Connell's here and Dan Campbell's here, these two guys are going to face off and square off, and they probably will know each other very well. It's why in-division matchups are so difficult, even if one team is good and one team is bad. It just doesn't really matter, because if you have stability at head coach, those head coaches have seen each other so often that it can make for a game like this. And that's what we saw in this game. Look, the Detroit Lions, for the most part, got outplayed today. And it was not really, one player's fault. It was a number of players' faults. I thought Jared Goff played fine. He wasn't great. He was not great by no means, but I thought he was generally fine. On the day, 25-37 for 2 touchdowns, 284 passing yards. They could not run the football, which I'm a little surprised with, because Minnesota has shown at times some vulnerability against the run. So the fact they could not get David Montgomery going or Jahmyr Gibbs going was a bit concerning. Amon-Ra had a fine day, 9 for 97. I think he went down with an injury. I don't know if he ever came back, but that's something to keep an eye on for sure. I don't think it's anything major because he walked off, but that's interesting. I mean, Sam Laporta had a very good game, 6 catches for 97 yards, and that touchdown was a thing of beauty. So clearly there's something here in this Lions offense that's really freaking good. They got to shore up the defense though. They made too many mistakes, gave too many opportunities to this Vikings team, and they allowed them to hang in there. The Minnesota Vikings won 27-24. McCarthy played fine. He was definitely not great by no means. On the day, he was 14 of 25 for 143 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. I thought he did fine. I mean, it wasn't like this super explosive day. I thought he played very well in the first half and then kind of tapered off in the middle, but he made the plays necessary. I also thought he ran the ball effectively too. Made some plays with his feet, made some plays with his arms. This game reminded me quite a bit of that fourth late half we saw against the Chicago Bears, where he just had a little bit more moxie and energy to him. Let's see if he can carry that over into future weeks. It's a really impressive win against a really good Detroit Lions team. They got pressure after him. They made life not easy for JJ. But of course, the Detroit Lions secondary is banged up. And I mean, look, Terrion Arnold has not been great this year. I do think that the Detroit Lions probably should look at secondary at some point in the draft next year. We'll have to wait and see if he can turn it around. But all in all, bad loss for the Detroit Lions. The good news for them is that the Green Bay Packers also somehow lost, which we'll talk about that here in a second. So their hold or their, closeness to winning the NFC North is still firmly there, but just a disappointing loss. You probably should have won this game. You're the better, more talented team with more veteran guys, especially at quarterback, but you didn't get the win. Shout out to Minnesota. Big time win for them. They're now back into potentially the wild card conversation if they can start playing better moving forward. Next up, let's talk about the New England Patriots narrowly beating the Atlanta Falcons 24-23. All right, let's start off with this. If you are a kicker in the NFL and you cannot make extra points, I don't think you should be in the league. I know this is just a one-time thing, and I know Romo's been pretty solid for the most part this year, but man, if you can't make extra points, what are we doing here? This should have been a 2024 game. Maybe it goes to overtime. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe Drake May has to make a game-winning drive or something along those lines. But if you cannot make an extra point when it's on the line, what are we doing here? I mean, it cannot happen in my opinion. Regardless of that, though, look, the Falcons just they just don't have it. They just don't have it this year, and it's really hard to pinpoint one thing as to what is wrong with this football team, but they're just not a great team, especially on the offense. They have a really young quarterback, although he's not really young, but in terms of his NFL experience, he is a younger quarterback. But they have inconsistencies with the ground game. Some days it looks unstoppable, borderline elite, and then other days like today, it's almost non-existent. And this is not a Patriots defense that is incredible against the run. They're a great defense, maybe not great, but a really good defense. And they made the Atlanta Falcons run game look inept for the most part. The Falcons were 1 for 10 on third down. And look, if it wasn't for Drake London making head top catches play after play after play, this might be a totally different ballgame. I want to give a huge shout out to Drake London. I thought he was by far and away the best player on the field. He was incredible and borderline unstoppable. It did not matter who was covering him. He was going to head top every single player. Randy Moss, toe tap swag. I am him. I am that guy. Coming off an injury too, where it wasn't really certain if he was going to play or not, he dominated the New England Patriots from top to bottom, from start to finish. He was incredible. But when it mattered most, look, you got to make a game tying, extra point. You didn't do it, made some mistakes. Also, shout out to the defense for the Falcons too. I thought they played pretty well out there. You had the strip sack on Drake May. You had an interception. You held New England in check for the most part. I thought the Falcons defense made enough plays, but this offense, look, I'm going to repeat what I've said the past few weeks. I'm not saying you fire Raheem Morris. I'm not saying you fire your offensive coordinator. But I think you might need to start looking at it because this team is underperforming in my opinion. They are way too talented to be doing this bad. As for the Patriots, I mean, look, you won the game and frankly, you were up for 99% of this game as well. This was a pretty comfortable game for you until it wasn't towards the end. This was, of all the games they have won lately, probably their least impressive game. I thought Drake May was fine, but he wasn't, this unstoppable guy. He made some nice plays down the stretch of the game. He had 2 touchdowns, 259 yards. They ran the football okay, and Pop Douglas made a couple huge plays out there, 4 for 100 and a touchdown. But it was, the strip sack, the interception. May got sacked 6 times. Things like that have to be cleaned up. Not a clean game here for the New England Patriots, but at the end of the day, a win's a win. And we saw an Atlanta Falcons team that had a bit more energy and juice to them, and you were able to weather the storm, play well enough. So yeah, credit to the Patriots. They're a really good football team, and the rest of their schedule is super easy. I would not be surprised they win this division, which is crazy to say. Next up, let's talk about the surprise of the week, or at least one of them. The Pittsburgh Steelers defeating the Indianapolis Colts 27-20. I'm going to start off with the Steelers here and then talk about the Indianapolis Colts. For starters, Pittsburgh, hey man, I've been quite critical of you these past few weeks. Thought the offense was playing good enough. This defense, complete no-show to start the season off, and I was saying the past few days, Pittsburgh blew their chance. They blew the AFC North. Well, hey, I was unfamiliar with your game. You guys balled out today, specifically the defense. The offense played well. 27 points in the day, 25 of 35 for Rodgers, 203 and a touchdown. Warren, not the greatest running game, but he also had 2 touchdowns. Calvin Austin, 5 for 56. Also, the final score is not really indicative of just how good of a game it was for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh was up like multiple scores late, and then Indianapolis made a couple nice plays. Also, Roman Wilson, why are we trying to hurdle in the late 4th quarter when you're up double digits? That made no sense at all. I think that is a borderline benchable defense. Like, you can't do that. Or offense, I should say. You just can't do that. So for Pittsburgh, huge win for this team. I was worried this is going to be a 4-4 ball club with Baltimore on the rise and Cincinnati starting to play a lot better. Now you're in a situation where you do have a little bit of that extra wiggle room now, bit more separation. We'll see what their future schedule holds. This was a huge game for Pittsburgh and a huge victory, and it's really good to see this highly paid defense play like they should have the entire season. This was by far and away their best defensive performance, and if they can combine a good enough offense with a great defense, Pittsburgh is a scary team, but they have to build on this now. The defense has to play like this the rest of the season. It cannot just be a one-stop show. They got to play better in the future. Now, as for Indianapolis, a lot of the statistics of this game are kind of skewed because they were able to make some, late magic happen to get it to a 1-score game, but this was a really bad game for the Colts. A really bad game, like completely bad in almost every aspect. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. 6 total turnovers on the game. 3 fumbles, 3 interceptions. Now, some of them were a little bit later, but still, 6 turnovers on the game. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5 sacks on the day. This was a team that for the entire season was able to run the football and was able to protect Daniel Jones the entire season. But up to this point, this was the one time they got exposed. And it's weird because Pittsburgh's been a defense that has kind of been underperforming for basically the entire season. And it's not like the Colts have not played a good defense before. They played arguably the best defense in the NFL in Denver. And they also played one of the best defensive lines, front sevens in the LA Rams. And they held their own. They ran the ball well. They were able to go up and down on those teams. So I kind of think this is maybe an outlier performance. I could be wrong. Maybe this is the beginning of the end for Indianapolis, but this felt like a very outlier type of game for this team. I would be saying that this is the beginning of the end had Indianapolis not played those high-end defenses and scored a ton of points on them. I mean, they scored 20 versus LA. That really should have been 34 because of the Adonai Mitchell. And they scored over 30 points on the Denver Broncos defense. So I'm willing to think that this one is just an outlier game until it's proven otherwise. For now, I'm not too concerned about this one. This is by far and away the worst game of Daniel Jones' time with the Colts. He looked very much like his New York Giants self. So hopefully that doesn't start to bring doubt into this team or doubt into the mind of a Daniel Jones. Frankly, I know you don't want to bench Daniel Jones, but maybe it would have been wise to throw in Anthony Richardson at some point just to see if his wheels can get this team some, I don't know, life. But at the same time, I also understand sticking with your guy who's been so good to start the season. So maybe I'm just, blabbering over here. Rough game, though, for the Colts. Hopefully they can bounce back for this one. When you look at their schedule, next week you have the Atlanta Falcons. That's not going to be an easy game, but I think it's a winnable one. Then you have a bye week where you can kind of reset and reevaluate things, because after that, you got the Kansas City Chiefs. Huge game right there. That's going to really tell us whether or not the Steelers game was fluky or legit or, who knows what it was. So for the Colts, I'm willing to believe this is just an outlier game until I'm proven otherwise, until I see that this is actually who they are and that early 7-1 run is not really who they are. So not panicking yet, but whereas earlier I was a 0 out of 10 in terms of panic meter, now I may be at a 3 because this game was pretty rough for this team. Next up, let's talk about the Denver Broncos going up against the Houston Texans and winning 18-15. So this was about as ugly and defensive battle as we probably all could have imagined. I mean, this was a straight up defensive battle between two of the best defenses in all of the NFL. The Broncos had a total of 271 total yards in the game. Texans, 268. Neither team ran the ball very well. Neither team passed the ball very well. Very inefficient on third down. We had some turnovers for Denver. I mean, this was a full-on defensive battle. Just two fences, moving chess pieces. So it was quite fun if that's your style of game. Now, unfortunately, Stroud was out for the game. And frankly, I do believe that if Stroud did play this game, I actually do think Houston would have won this game. Again, we will never know that because Stroud did miss the game, which is a super big shame because, again, defensive battle, I think that sometimes will favor teams that have the better quarterback. And I think Stroud's better than Bo Nix, at least up to this point in their careers. Not to say Bo can't be or has never been better than Stroud. Definitely not the case, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, how their careers pan out. But a huge defensive matchup, and frankly, that's really all I have to say about this game. It wasn't like Bo Nix was just dialing it up out there. I mean, he was 18 for 37 for 173, 2 touchdowns. I'll give him credit. Made a couple really nice plays down the stretch. Also, shout out to this defense for getting that stop. Houston, 15-15 ball game. Has a chance to go down and score. They get nothing. They punt the ball over to Denver. Bo Nix, huge run that puts them in great position. Another big run. They kick the field goal. Game's over. Huge win for Denver. I mean, look, Denver 7-2. I think they're now in, I guess they're still in second place because they lost to the Colts, but they're right there in the conversation to be the top seed in the AFC. And when you look at, their own division, you look at the Chargers. Well, they're looking at one of the worst offensive lines in the league. You look at the Chiefs. The Chiefs are now 2 games behind, which we'll talk about that here in a little bit. And it's not like the Broncos have this super difficult schedule. They got some tough games. Next week is the Raiders, winnable. Then you got the Chiefs. Then you got the Commanders. Not sure how good Commanders are. You got the Packers and Chiefs and Chargers late in the season. But again, where are those teams going to be at? Not sure yet. So a pretty winnable schedule here for Denver. Denver looks like they're on the inside track to potentially win this division, which is going to be really fun to watch and monitor as the season goes on. As for Houston, the nightmare season continues. Bad offensive line play, as we all kind of expected. Stroud hopefully won't miss time. Hopefully he'll be back next week and maybe they can make a push, but it's been a nightmare year for them, let's be honest. Which is not necessarily the worst thing in the world because they could really use a high draft pick to take one of the top offensive linemen in next year's class. Next up, let's talk about arguably the game of the year between the Chicago Bears and the Cincinnati Bengals. Boy, oh boy, this game was unbelievable. Unbelievable from top to bottom. I want to give out, some huge shout outs here. Shout out Caleb Williams, because he was getting shit the entire week about he sucks, he's a bust, he's this and that, all these crazy overreactions. What does he do? 20 of 34 for 280 and 3 touchdowns. He also had 5 runs for 53 yards and 2 catches for 22 yards and a touchdown. It felt like Ben Johnson had zero respect for this Bengals defense. Like, I'm talking none, because he was doing kind of whatever he wanted out there. He had a DJ Moore pass. He had a Tyson Bagent pass. He even tried a Cole Kmet pass. He had Caleb Williams, catching the ball in the end zone. He had Caleb Williams do all sorts of crazy things, and they were working. They were moving the ball consistently down the field. I mean, this was just a offensive coordinator just saying, I don't respect you. I don't think you can cover us. I think we're better than you, and I'm going to show you on the field. And, well, it almost backfired, not because, Ben called up a bad play call or anything like that, but because Cincinnati, they were also there too. But it didn't backfire. I thought Ben Johnson was in his bag today. Kyle Monungai, man, 26 carries for 176. It looks like he might be the guy at running back over DeAndre Swift. We'll see if that maintains or if they make the change or how that works out, but he was huge out there. The Bears played great. But on the flip side, this Bengals offense was incredible on the day. I mean, you take away the 2 interceptions that Flacco had. Flacco was great. I mean, he was really good. 31 of 47 for 470 yards. I believe that's a career high. 4 touchdowns. Chase had over 100 yards, but man, T. Higgins, holy crap, 7 for 121 and 2 touchdowns. He went out late in the game, but he was incredible. Could not really run the football. Chase Brown, wasn't great in this one, but still, man, this was just a masterclass of 2 passing offenses just, going and swinging after each other. And then we get the late game shenanigans. The Bears look like they're going to cruise to a victory. You get I think it was an interception or a fumble, one of the two on Flacco. They all think I want to say it was a pick. They all think it's a pick 6. It ends up he got touchdown, and all of a sudden Chicago has to get the ball back. All the momentum's gone. They end up punting or something along those lines. Cincinnati scores. It looks like the game's over because you're doing the most difficult thing in the NFL, which is an onside kick. They do the onside kick. Chicago taps it. Cincinnati recovers it. And next thing you know, within like 40 seconds, Cincinnati scores. And to me, I'm like, holy shit, this game has turned. All the Bengals need is one stop. And per usual, this Bengals defense cannot get a stop. They're the worst defense in the NFL. Or, well, besides my Dallas Cowboys, probably the worst defense in the NFL, or second worst. They are horrendously bad. And in this, late moments of the game, it looked like the Bengals defense was locking down. They were getting after Caleb Williams. And Caleb, he looked a little bit rattled. He was running around when the pocket wasn't really collapsing, just trying to make time, trying to be Superman. And he did it play in, play in, play out. And next thing you know, big dime. And I mean dime. It was a beautiful ball right in the middle of the field, in between all the guys, all the traffic, to Colston Loveland, who, by the way, also been getting a lot of shit. He had a really nice game. Goes all the way for like a 50, 60, 70-yard touchdown. Just insane. So I feel so bad for all the guys in that Bengals offense because they killed it. And at the same time, I feel relieved for the Bears because look, the Bears are 5-3, and they have the same exact record as the Detroit Lions. The Bears have a chance to win this division. Not saying it's going to happen, but what a freaking game. Had to go into detail about this one. This was for sure one of the games of the year. Next up, let's talk about the Green Bay Packers losing to the Carolina Panthers 16-13. The Green Bay Packers offense was horrendously bad today. They were bad. I mean, they were able to move the ball and have some drives that were sustained, but 13 total points. I mean, 2 of 3 on 4th down, 7 of 13 on 3rd down, a fumble, an interception. This was just a bad game for the Green Bay Packers. A really bad game versus what is not a great defense in Carolina. A better defense for sure than what they have been, but not a great defense. Scoring 13 points versus Carolina is a shame, especially when you have so many weapons on the offense. Yes, I know if there were some injuries, you weren't 100%. I understand that, but this is an inexcusable loss. This feels very similar to that Browns game where they just really had nothing on the offense. But when they had opportunities, they couldn't fully convert. When they had chances to win the games, when they had a good positive drive happening or something along those lines, penalties or, not being able to convert 3rd downs, making mistakes, turnovers, all that sort of things end up biting them in the ass. And it wasn't like Carolina played great in this game. I mean, Bryce Young had 102 total yards, had an interception, almost had a second interception. I thought Bryce was mostly mediocre today. Now, give credit where credit's due. Rico Dowell, 25 for 132 touchdowns. He's completely taken over that RB1 role. He played fantastic. But again, it wasn't really like Carolina was just, dominating the Packers. They did not win the time of possession. It was really close, but 29-50 to 30-10 in favor of Green Bay. They were 4 of 10 on third down. They had their own interception, probably should have been 2. I mean, they had their own issues. Now, you can also say this, Green Bay missed a field goal, but to me, this is not a game that should come down to a field goal. This should be the Green Bay Packers winning by double digits because they're just a better football team. But it looked like Carolina was the better team, and it's a shame, man, because with the Lions losing, and with Minnesota starting to look a little bit better, and the Chicago Bears looking pretty good right now, this would have been a great chance for Green Bay to be a 6-1-1 football team and have firm control of the division. But now you lose this game, and you're right in the same pack with the Lions, the Bears, and even the Vikings right now. I mean, this is just a bad loss that, simply put, cannot happen. You look at their 2 losses. In fact, you look at I'm going to include the Cowboys game as a loss for them. Their 3 losses are to the Browns, the Panthers, and the Dallas Cowboys. It makes no sense. What is this Packers team? I do not know. They are mystifying to me. Next up, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints losing to the LA Rams 34-10. I'm not going to spend much time on this one because I went into a lot of detail for some of these other games. This was a mismatch. Tyler Shock went out there and he made some plays. He had some really nice throws, but he also had some crazy mistakes. And he looked like Tyler Shock that we saw at Louisville, that we saw at Texas Tech. It's kind of the same guy now, just in a New Orleans Saints jersey. He'll make a very impressive play, and then he'll just do some really stupid stuff. This was a tough game. The Rams are a really good football team. There was nothing he could have done. As for the Rams, they were awesome on offense. Stafford is putting up MVP numbers. He might be the front runner for MVP. I know we have this conversation every single week, it feels like. Is it Dak? Is it Mahomes? Is it Baker Mayfield? It might just be Matthew Stafford. We might just be overthinking this one. He had another great game. Kyren Williams ran the ball well. Puka Nacua had a good game. Devontae Adams made some big plays. This was just a really good game for the Rams. So shout out to them. They're in control of their division. They're looking pretty comfortable there. Next up, let's talk about the Buffalo Bills defeating the Kansas City Chiefs to improve to 6-2. The Chiefs are now 5-4, and look, I still think they're a really good football team. I still think they're firmly in the conversation to make the playoffs. And, you put the Chiefs in a playoff game and you let them go on a run, they could win the Super Bowl. That's just who the Chiefs are. But I do believe that this Chiefs team has real issues that they have to work out. They can't run the football. And when you go up against teams like the Buffalo Bills, who, Maxwell Harrison stepped in there, played pretty well. But the Bills' one weakness really on their entire team, or one of their bigger weaknesses, they're not great against the run. They're really not. But the Chiefs are equally terrible at running the football. And I'm not sure this is a situation where you just say, oh, go make a trade for Breece Hall or Alvin Kamara. I don't know if they fixed their running issues. I think it's a lot of other things too. In part, they need a new back because Kareem Hunt, not explosive, not really the guy he used to be. And Isaiah Pacheco also is not the same guy he used to be a few years ago. So maybe a Breece Hall or a trade makes it better, but I don't know by how much. But right now, this Chiefs offense is so dependent on Patrick Mahomes. And when you make life hard on Mahomes, you make him go through progressions and reads and work the ball down the field. Sure, it can make for really explosive drives, but it also makes it a very inconsistent offense. Against bad teams, the Chiefs will look great, but against good teams, they might struggle a little bit. Now, I don't want to overreact because the Chiefs, they're not good against the Bills in the regular season. Like, this is almost a yearly tradition at this point where the Bills win in the regular season and then lose to them in the playoffs. We'll see if that plays out again here. Big time win for the Buffalo Bills. It felt like before their bye week, they were 0-2 in the last 2 games. Some really bad losses. They lose to the Patriots. They lose to the Falcons. Then they have their bye week. It feels like since they've gotten a little bit more healthy defensively, they get some of their guys fully back. Larry Ogunjobi, Michael Holt, Maxwell Harrison's been pretty good. It feels like this defense is playing a lot better, and this offense is also picking up their stride. Josh Allen was great today. James Cook was great today. It feels like they wake up for big games, and that's really good, especially when you get to the playoffs. As to the Chiefs, look, you're 5-4. Realistically speaking, in the AFC, I do think a 10-7 football team can make it. So as long as they don't just completely fizzle out, I think they should be fine. But they got to learn how to run the football at least slightly better, because right now it's all on Mahomes. And if Mahomes doesn't play well, the ship goes down with them. And lastly, let's talk about probably another big time game here, another fun one. The Jaguars narrowly defeating the Raiders 30-29. I like the way that the Raiders responded this week. Not a great game by them, really not a great game, but it feels like with Brock Bowers back, there's a little bit more juice to this offense. And look, they scored 29 points, had 14 in the fourth quarter, and actually were able to somewhat move the football. I think for Geno Smith, this is a game that can help him build some confidence. He played a lot better today. 29 of 39, 284, 4 touchdowns, only 1 interception. But with Brock Bowers being back, I mean, that's got to be the guy. Brock Bowers has to be the guy that they go to every single game, because when Brock Bowers goes, this offense goes. Bowers had 12 catches for 127 and 3 touchdowns. I hope to see a whole lot more of that. Couldn't really get Genty going. I think that'll start to open up when they go up against, not so really good defenses. Jacksonville, they played fine. Trevor Lawrence, I thought, made some really nice plays. They ran the football decently enough. Parker Washington made some plays. Defensively, they had the interception. They also made a couple nice plays. They could not cover Brock Bowers to save their life. That's concerning. And without Travis Hunter, I mean, look, that's going to be tough. Hunter's out for, I believe, like a month or so. That's a big time loss. He's a really talented player that does a lot for this team. Without him there, you're kind of missing a guy on both sides of the field, which is, one of the concerns of having him. Few shout outs here, though. Shout out, of course, Geno. Shout out Brock Bowers. Shout out Trevor Lawrence for making enough plays and putting together some drives. But probably the biggest one of all, shout out to that dude Cam Little, setting the record for the longest kick in NFL history, 68 yards. Not sure how long that's going to be there for, because he might break it or Brandon Aubrey might break it. But for now, 68-yard field goal. Really impressive stuff for him. And also, huge shout out to, I can't remember the player's name or who it was. Shout out to the player that got that hand up on the 2-point conversion. Had he not done that, the Raiders probably win this football game. So, big time win here for the Jaguars. They're 5-3. They're still in the conversation for their division. They're not out of it, especially if the Colts start to unravel a little bit. If they do that, keep an eye on Jacksonville. But let me know your thoughts on what happened in Week 9. We do have a Sunday Night Football game that's being played as I'm recording, and we have Monday Night Football on Monday. Check out my Instagram and my Twitter to hear my opinions of those games, or just ask in the comments below and I'll respond to you. Hit the like and subscribe button. I love you guys. Peace.